Hello, everybody. I'm Parrish Alford with the Daily Journal. This is John Davis of the Oxford Citizen. We've just gotten out of the Hugh Freeze press conference. Wanted to give you a little rapid reaction, kind of each with three things that we took away from the press conference. One was Mike Hilton, JD. You know, he's talked so much. We've heard so much about Mike Hilton playing two roles on this team as a cornerback and also as a Husky. And also throughout that time, we've heard about the rise of A.J. Moore. Well, it sounds like that rise has continued to the point that Moore is going to be their first option as the backup to Tony Connor. Looks like Hilton's going to be primarily the cornerback, a starting cornerback. As Hugh Freeze said, you'll see him in some sets. You're going to see him at Husky at some point. But if it's just a matter of Tony Connor needs a breather, that's going to be A.J. Moore.
And I think that you can live with that move, especially if, as you said, he feels like they're comfortable. He's done enough to where you feel like he can make that adjustment from high school to this level. He's done enough in practice where you feel good about that. I don't think there's a problem doing that. And A.J. Moore and C.J. Moore were going to play special teams regardless. These guys were probably, if you rank the freshman class from 1 to whatever, these were the least likely to be redshirted, in my opinion. So I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's great for the overall defense to know that Mike Hilton gets to practice at one position.
Yeah, and it did sound like, though, that A.J. Moore is the lock of the Moore brothers to play. And C.J. is going to play because they kind of want to play together, and maybe because he'll help on special teams.
And he's a special teams guy for sure, right?
But he was a little bit, I mean, there was some discussion on C.J. Moore and whether or not he would play. All right. Point number 2, let's talk about the freshmen that are going to play. He mentioned Rod Taylor right off the bat, the offensive lineman. It's the Rebels' highest signee in the 2014 class. You know, we've talked a lot about the need for depth on the offensive line. We figured he would play. He's going to be that number 1 guard backup, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that he is the guy of all the freshman offensive linemen, or even just linemen in general, that you thought would play right away. When he was committed almost a year ago, or over a year ago now, there was a chance for him to play early. So not surprising, probably good long term. You just hate to, again, have to place too many freshmen on the offensive line.
Well, some other guys you talked about right off the bat that will play, Marquise Haynes. Obviously, we've seen him getting a lot of number 1 reps at defensive end when Fadal Brown was out, and even after Brown came back. So a lot of playing time, I would imagine, for Haynes. C.J. Hampton, another, the Moore brothers we talked about. Kadarius Webster. You know, they've talked a lot about Kadarius Webster this camp. That's right. That's right. Markel Pack at receiver. You know, there'll be some others. Now let's go back to early in camp. The first freshman that he just really had good things to say about was Dayall Harris. Looks like Dayall Harris among the receivers. They're going to try to redshirt him. You know, if he doesn't play against Boise and Collins Moore comes back in week 2 as expected, Freeze told us today, looks like Dayall Harris will redshirt.
Yeah, and I think that's the right thing to do. If you know you're going to get Collins Moore back and he's going to be ready to go, and he's already started to get back acclimated, if you will. And it also looks like Stringfellow is not going to get that waiver. That's the other thing to take into account now. I don't think there's any doubt Stringfellow, if he gets the waiver, you play him right away, and he's your number 1 guy at that slot position. But they haven't heard any word back on him, so you've got to look at other options. And if Collins Moore is ready to go, I think he's the guy that you play there because of the experience over Harris.
Another point to come out of today's press conference, Freeze said this is one of the toughest games he's ever had to prepare for because of the newness of the Boise staff, even though there's a little bit of a track record for Brian Harsin as head coach at Arkansas State, co-offensive coordinator at Texas. Difficult to prepare for this game because a lot of newness on staff. So 3 points for you, JD. What'd you get?
Well, you know, I think the big thing when you go into a game like this, when you've got some newness, you've got to look at the offensive line. How do they gel together? How do they protect for Bo Wallace? And I think you look at the other flip side of the coin when you talk about newness is you've got an experienced quarterback in Bo Wallace. They've prepared him for this game. And if there's something that he hasn't seen, you know, something that they're not anticipating, you've got his experience to kind of make it back up. I think those two things are hand-in-glove situations here. I mean, he's got to have some time to pick up those schemes, but at the same time, he can make that offensive line a little bit better with their protection because he can adjust somebody over to whatever side they need to go to.
I think the experience of Bill Wallace is big in helping out there, and I really think the offensive line is going to benefit by getting the reps together. Now that they know who the 5 starters are, I think that's going to be very helpful. And look, you got a new guy in Ben Still, but you also have a lot of experience on his left and right in Aaron Morris and Justin Bell, and
Right.
you have an All-American candidate and Laramie Tunsil. There are some unknowns on the offensive line. You don't really know how Ben Still's going to hold up until you watch him in game action. Fawn Cooper, same thing, over at right tackle. But I think as they play a little bit, I think this offensive line is going to be okay. Boyce is transitioning there too. So.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, and I think, again, when you have Bo Wallace, if he can give him some time, I think his experience is going to be the difference in this game.